Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi. Anda menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Haris Ashraf Hasnan. Kita membuka Niaga AWANI dengan perangkaan terbaru berkenaan dengan indeks harga pengguna ataupun inflasi terkini Malaysia. Dan sudah tentu cerita berkenaan dengan inflasi kita akan bawakan selepas ini. Tetapi saya nak bawa sedikit kepada anda berkenaan dengan kalau kita bercakap soal Ringgit. Apa cerita berkenaan dengan Ringgit? Okey, pada sebelah pagi ini, okey, jika boleh saya refresh sedikit untuk kita melihat update semasa berkenaan dengan paras ataupun situasi Ringgit pada ketika ini 4.571 jika dibandingkan dengan US dollar, dan sudah tentu 4.571 ini berada pada paras yang nampaknya tidak begitu baik sebenarnya, tapi ianya menunjukkan sedikit rekod pemulihan kalau kita bandingkan sekitar dalam Julai ataupun awal Julai lalu 4.6695 dengan paras yang tertinggi dicatatkan 46678. Jadi banyak perkara yang boleh kita perincikan ataupun kita nak melihat kepada angka ataupun data berkenaan dengan, pertamanya adalah isu berkaitan dengan pemulihan Ringgit. Apa ceritanya? Kedua, berkenaan dengan kita nak meneliti berkenaan dengan data inflasi yang dikeluarkan oleh DOSM semalam. Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, Ketua Ahli Ekonomi dan Kewangan Social Bank Muamalat Malaysia berada bersama dengan saya melalui Google Meet pada ketika ini. Assalamualaikum Doktor, selamat pulang dari menunaikan haji, Doktor.
Waalaikumsalam Haris.
Ya, mungkin suara agak serak-serak tapi terima kasih sudi bersama dengan kami. Kita nak melihat terus berkenaan dengan isu Ringgit ini. Kita lihat bahawa agak turun naik sebenarnya kalau kita nak bandingkan situasi dalam tempoh sebulan ini. Kalau kita perincikan dalam tempoh sebulan dianggarkan sekitar, kalau anda dapat lihat graf di sini, nampaknya naik turun sekitar, kalau kita perincikan 466, 457. Jadi angkanya itu agak turun naik kadarnya di sini. Bagaimana kita nak memahami perkara ini? Pertama. Kedua, apa mungkin faktor-faktor yang mempengaruhi turun naiknya kadar Ringgit pada ketika ini, Dr. Afzal Nizam?
Okey, kalau saya boleh perincikan pergerakan nilai Ringgit ni, kita boleh bahagikan kepada dua perkara lah. Pertama yang perkara ataupun faktor jangka pendek dan kemudian faktor jangka panjang lah. Jangka pendek ni banyak berkenaan dengan situasi kadar faedah di negara luar lah, terutamanya di negara Amerika Syarikat, yang mana pihak Federal Reserve telah pun melaksanakan dasar untuk menaikkan kadar faedah mereka dengan cara yang begitu agresif pada tahun lalu sehingga kini lah. Namun minggu lalu apabila data berkenaan dengan inflasi di Amerika Syarikat menunjukkan penurunan yang berterusan, iaitu ke paras 3% bagi bulan Jun yang lalu, berbanding 9.1% pada bulan Jun tahun lalu. Ini menunjukkan bahawa pihak Federal Reserve telah pun menunjukkan suatu credibility mereka untuk mengawal inflasi negara mereka. Jadi telahannya adalah berkemungkinan pihak Federal Reserve akan, orang kata tu, melaksanakan dasar yang lebih, orang kata tu, berhemah lah dari segi kenaikan kadar faedahnya. Itu tidak berlaku seperti tahun lalu sebanyak 75 mata asas bagi setiap mesyuaratnya itu. Jadi jangkaan seperti itu saya kira yang banyak mempengaruhi nilai Ringgit sehingga membawa ke paras RM4.52, RM4.53 macam tu selepas data inflasi itu diumumkan. Namun bergerak pada minggu ini kita lihat terdapat pantulan dalam nilai Ringgit berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat ke paras RM4.56 sehingga RM4.57. Sekali lagi kerana kita berhadapan dengan mesyuarat FOMC, iaitu Federal Open Market Committee pada minggu ini, berkemungkinan akan berlaku sekali lagi kenaikan kadar faedah, walaupun dia punya jangkaannya itu agak kecil, iaitu 25 mata asas. Tapi jika dibandingkan beberapa bank pusat utama dunia seperti terutamanya lah Bank of Japan, nampak gaya bank pusat Amerika Syarikat ni begitu, orang kata tu, stand out dari segi dasar monetarinya, kerana Bank of Japan ataupun bank pusat di Jepun melaksanakan dasar yang agak memang berbeza sangat dengan dasar monetary di Amerika Syarikat, yang mana mereka masih mengekalkan dasar yang begitu akomodatif. Jadi itu banyak mempengaruhi nilai mata wang dolar dan secara translationnya kepada nilai mata wang ringgit lah.
Dr. Afzal Doktor menyebut berkenaan dengan Jepun. Saya nak bawa tunjuk sedikit kepada anda penonton. Okey, USD Jepun nampaknya untuk tempoh setahun ini mengukuh kepada 3.32. Jadi ini satu perkara yang cukup menarik untuk kita telitikan. Jangkaan melibatkan mesyuarat FOMC, ini satu perkara yang cukup penting. Hari ini 25 hari bulan dan juga 26 Julai akan diadakan mesyuarat FOMC seperti yang disebutkan tadi. Jangkaan doktor, bagaimana sebarang keputusan yang akan ditetapkan pada FOMC kali ini akan memberi pengaruh kepada nilai ringgit, doktor?
Betul. Dari segi jangkaan, rata-rata para penganalisis ekonomi menjangkakan 25 mata asas. Itu saya kira mungkin akan berlakulah. Tapi apa yang penting adalah naratifnya ataupun statement kenyataan yang dibuat setelah keputusan itu dilaksanakan. Para penganalisis serta peserta pasaran akan meneliti lenggok bahasa yang akan dipamerkan dalam kenyataan ini tadi, adakah bersifat orang kata tu akan merubah stand ataupun dasar mereka pada masa akan datang. Jadi sifatnya lebih orang kata tu forward looking tentang bagaimana dasar moneter itu akan dilaksanakan pada masa akan datang. Jadi itulah perkara utama yang akan diperhatikan sekiranya katakanlah kenyataannya itu bersifat orang kata tu bakal merubah pendirian mereka pada masa akan datang. Saya kira itu akan menyebabkan nilai dolar akan melemah dan secara translationnya juga akan menyebabkan nilai ringgit akan mengukuh. Namun kalau sebaliknya berlaku, katakanlah pihak Federal Reserve masih lagi risau tentang situasi inflasi di negara mereka, sudah pasti nilai ringgit nilai mata wang dolar Amerika Syarikat akan mengukuh dan secara peralihannya nilai ringgit juga akan menunjukkan trend yang melemah. Jadi lenggok bahasa tu yang perlu akan diteliti oleh para penganalisis ekonomi untuk menjangkakan pergerakan mata wang pada masa akan datang.
Ya, Dr. Afzal Nizam, saya nak bawa perbincangan kita sedikit melihat kepada inflasi. Kita lihat inflasi berada pada kadar 2.4 untuk 2.4% untuk Jun 2023 dengan inflasi terasnya bagi saya masih lagi tinggi iaitu pada kadar 3.1%. Mungkin jangkaan pada masa akan datang dan juga bagaimana dari segi imbangan, apa yang lagi yang boleh dilakukan dalam bentuk inisiatif. Berbaki dalam 2 minit perbincangan kita ini, Dr. Afzal Nizam.
Okey, saya kira inflasi ini masih lagi dalam trend yang tinggi dan kalau kita lihat banyak disumbang oleh faktor makanan dan minuman, bukan beralkohol. Dan saya kira perkara ini juga sangat berkait rapat tentang imbangan dagangan di dalam sektor agro makanan. Setakat data yang saya ada untuk tempoh 5 bulan pertama, negara kita masih lagi mencatatkan apa yang dikatakan defisit imbangan dagangan dalam sektor agro makanan sebanyak 14.3 bilion.
Disumbang oleh bijirin, sayur-sayuran, produk tenusur, daging dan sebagainya. Jika dibandingkan defisit tahun lalu untuk 5 bulan yang pertama, tahun yang sama, tempoh yang sama juga sekitar 13 bilion. Jadi itu menunjukkan bahawa trend di dalam defisit itu sedang melebar dan ia menyumbang kepada peningkatan inflasi yang berkait rapat dengan makanan dan minuman bukan beralkohol. Jadi itu juga berkait rapat juga tentang ringgit yang melemah yang menyebabkan apa yang dikatakan sebagai inflasi yang diimport. Jadi saya kira itu perkara yang perkara terasa yang akan menentukan trend akan datang bagi inflasi. Walau bagaimanapun, dilihat separuh tahun kedua tahun lalu asasnya tinggi. Jadi berkemungkinan juga trend inflasinya akan terus merosotlah pada untuk tempoh Julai sehingga Disember akan datang.
Okey, Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, Ketua Ahli Ekonomi dan Keuangan Sosial Bank Muamalat Malaysia. Terima kasih sekali lagi berkongsi pandangan. Doktor menyebut berkenaan dengan makanan. Terima kasih doktor. Saya nak membawa perbincangan kita melihat kepada isu makanan. Kalau kita bercakap soal isu makanan, ini merupakan akaun pembekalan dan juga penggunaan komoditi pertanian terpilih ataupun kita selalu sebut sebagai self-sufficient ratio ataupun kadar sara diri. Okey, kalau kita nak menelitikan kepada data-data ini, saya nak bawa anda untuk melihat yang ke sebelah kanan saya ini. Okey, daging kambing ini dari segi macam mana nak faham perkara ini? Okey, kalau kita nampak peratusannya rendah, ini bermakna bahawa kita terpaksa import dengan banyak. Okey? Dan negara kita tidak dapat mengeluarkan produk ataupun makanan item-item tertentu ini. Sebagai contoh, kita lihat apa yang kurang. Untuk sehingga tahun 2021, daging lembu sekadar 18.9%. Beras 65%, susu segar, cili, ikan dan juga item-item yang lain kalau kita lihat. Ini antara perkara ataupun item yang boleh dikatakan memerlukan import yang tinggi. Satu, kita kena faham bahawa apabila berlakunya kenaikan sebagai contoh krisis mata wang ataupun krisis iklim, apa yang berlaku di negara luar yang mungkin tidak memberi impak kepada kita secara langsung dan akhirnya ianya akan memberi impak kepada kita disebabkan oleh barang-barang, item yang kita import ini. Seperti Dr. Afzal Nizam tadi sebut berkenaan dengan imported inflation dan sebagainya. Ini satu perkara yang perlu kita perincikan. Profesor Datin Paduka Dr. Fatimah Muhammad Arsyad bersama dengan saya menerusi Google Meet, Ahli Majlis Perundingan Pertanian Negara dan juga Fellow Penyidik di Laboratori Kajian Polisi Pertanian dan Makanan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam, Haris.
Prof, kalau kita telitikan seperti yang saya katakan dan juga data yang ditunjukkan oleh DOSEM, apabila berlaku krisis iklim, mata wang, ekonomi, rantaian bekalan dan sebagainya, Malaysia akan menerima tempias lantaran kebergantungan kita yang tinggi terhadap import. Apa yang wajar diberi tumpuan sekarang ini? Pelaburan dalam infrastruktur pertanian, kemudahan untuk menyokong petani, meningkatkan produktiviti. Prof.
Terima kasih. Saya sangat setuju dengan rumusan yang Cik Haris buat itu, iaitu masa hadapan yang kita akan alami ataupun lanskap untuk sekuriti makanan negara adalah sangat-sangat orang kata tidak menentu. Kemungkinan peperangan dan perubahan cuaca dan juga kita takut pandemik akan kembali balik dan juga situasi inflasi yang sangat berat ini. Jadi saya ingin menyatakan bahawa kita sudah sampai masanya kita harus merubah arah paradigma baru, iaitu kita tekankan pembangunan industri makanan ataupun food first policy. Ya, maklum sajalah oil palm pun akan sampai tahap yang tahap ceilingnya, getah dah menurun, koko dah menurun. Dan yang kedua, kita dapati dulu kita boleh selesa dengan polisi just in time. Maknanya just in time, bila ada berlaku krisis kita import sana import sini, okey, bekalan cukup. Tapi sekarang tak boleh. Sekarang adalah just in case. Dan kita telah lihat bagaimana Rusia telah menarik diri daripada Black Sea Grain Deal. Ini adalah berbahaya kerana lepas ini akan berlaku, kemungkinan besar akan berlaku masalah krisis dari segi harga biji rain, terutama gandum, dan mungkin ini akan mempengaruhi beras kerana ada kaitan beras dan gandum dan kita harus bersedia.
Ya, Prof, meneliti kepada kita ada dasar agro makanan kebangsaan DAN, dasar agro makanan negara ini 2.0 sehingga tahun 2030. Pelaksanaannya sejauh mana kita telah pun mencapai dasar ini, Prof?
Cik Aris telah menyebut kata kunci di sini iaitu pelaksanaan. Ya. Kita kalau pasal bab polisi kita memang hebatlah. Kita punya polisi menjadi rujukan negara lain. Saya ada dengar orang Vietnam minta daripada saya polisi pertanian kita sebab agak komprehensif dan orang kata berjangka panjang dan sebagainya. Tapi dari segi pelaksanaan di situ kita ada masalah ya. Kita dapati rata-rata kita punya hasil. Kita lihat beras atau padi menurun daripada 4.5 per tan dahulu dan sekarang telah mencapai 3.6 tan per hektar walaupun subsidi masih di tahap yang sama. Jadi banyak masalah yang kita harus hadapi dan kalau nak tahu apakah pencapaiannya, saya rasa walaupun harga telah meningkat dan kita punya DAN bermula 2021 iaitu waktu puncak pandemik. Jadi 2021 dan 2022 kita masih lagi mengalami masalah walaupun harga meningkat tapi kos meningkat. Jadi saya tak jangka pengeluaran akan memberi peningkatan yang besar. Jadi mungkin kita orang kata status quo lah, kita pertahankan tahap sara diri yang lama. Dan kita telah melihat import juga telah meningkat dengan banyak. Jadi kita mengambil masa lagi untuk kita orang kata pulih dari segi inflasi, dari segi kos input yang meningkat dan juga beberapa kejutan yang akan datang. Yang kita dengar kes Black Sea Green Deal itu ya, dan juga masalah cuaca yang akan timbul. Saya dengar semalam ada beberapa pakar menyatakan tahun 2025 sampai 2030 akan berlaku masalah El Nino dan ini akan menyebabkan kekeringan dan juga kepanasan ya. Itu yang saya tekankan sekarang, bukan lagi just in time tapi just in case. Kita harus bersedia dari sekarang.
Prof, bercakap soal dari segi kita nak menyokong petani tempatan ini, mungkin dalam bentuk sokongan keuangan lagi ke, insentif, apa bentuk insentif termasuklah kepada mungkin koperasi pertanian untuk kita mendorong pengeluaran makanan ini untuk meningkatkan produktiviti, geran, subsidi, pinjaman dengan kadar bunga yang rendah, kerana seolah-olah adakah sebenarnya petani kecil itu beban kepada sektor makanan? Ini Prof.
Terima kasih Cik Aris. Cik Aris telah rumuskan dengan baik untuk saya. Okey, 2015 European Union telah menyatakan bahawa masa depan pertanian adalah terletak di bahu petani kecil ya. Jadi saya dapatilah berdasarkan pada pemerhatian saya, Malaysia ini agak orang kata memandang pekebun kecil sebagai beban. Walhal di negara-negara Asia dan negara membangun, pekebun kecil telah bertahan ya. Kerana ia adalah orang kata sangat fleksibel. Tidak seperti estate, kalau dia tak ada untung dia gulung tikar ya. Kita lihat dalam kes koko, tak untung saja harga turun dia gulung tikar dan dia tanam kelapa sawit, tapi petani kecil dia akan bertahan ya. Dan petani kecil ini banyak faedah dia, seperti dia akan memelihara dia punya persekitaran, dia adalah dinamik dan dia adalah setara, ramai peserta ya, dan setara dari segi itu. Dan kalau orang kata dipupuk ataupun diberi bantuan yang baik, kita lihat negara Thailand, Vietnam dan China tidak ada estate penanaman sayur-sayuran ya, cuma kecil. Apa yang diperkasakan adalah R&D, koperasi dan yang penting pengembangan ataupun extension dan juga inovasi ya. Sebagai contoh saya baca baru ni, China telah mencapai 15 tan per hektar ya untuk padi, untuk melalui padi hybrid. Dan ingat, apabila kita buat kes contohnya lah projek besar-besaran, kita bagi pada agensi-agensi tertentu ya, agensi kerajaan, ingat mereka ini adalah bermodalkan modal ataupun bergantung kepada modal dan mereka adalah sangat capital intensif. Apabila mereka melaksanakan perniagaan ataupun perusahaan, ia memberi pulangan kepada syarikat tersebut ataupun agensi tersebut, tetapi tidak memperkasakan si petani. Si petani saya risau nanti katalah program estate beras besar-besaran, si petani hanya menjadi pekerja saja kepada projek tersebut. Yang dapat untung besar adalah si syarikat ataupun GLC dan sebagainya. Jadi kita tidak memperkasakan petani, walhal petani itu memerlukan banyak bantuan, banyak usaha-usaha untuk membinakan kapasiti mereka. Dari segi dari segi sekarang penggunaan ICT, penggunaan AI ataupun machine learning ataupun drones ataupun IoT, memang banyak prospek yang boleh memperkasakan petani kecil. Dan ini telah dibuktikan di negara China, dibuktikan di negara Holland, dibuktikan di negara Thailand, dan kita harus mengikuti contoh itu.
Ya, Prof, sudah tentu banyak inisiatif dan juga dasar agro makanan negara itu perlu diteliti dalam bentuk pelaksanaannya dan seharusnya ianya dilaksanakan dalam konsep yang holistik, secara holistik dasar tersebut supaya ianya memberi manfaat menang-menang kepada petani, menang-menang juga kepada industri agro makanan dan juga keterjaminan makanan di negara ini, dan kerjasama di peringkat universiti dan juga badan pelaksana juga cukup penting. Terima kasih sekali lagi Profesor Datin Paduka Dr. Fatimah Muhammad Arsyad, Ahli Majlis Perundingan Pertanian Negara dan juga Fellow Penyelidik di Laboratori Kajian Polisi Pertanian dan Makanan Itafos Universiti Putra Malaysia. Okey, baik, ini antara perkembangan terkini yang baru kami terima. Ia melibatkan kenyataan daripada yang di-Pertua Dewan Rakyat, di mana kami bawakan kepada anda apa yang anda lihat di skrin, kenyataan media oleh yang di-Pertua Dewan Rakyat berkenaan dengan kekosongan luar jangka melibatkan kerusi Dewan Rakyat kawasan P161 Pulih Johor, di mana dengan ini dimaklumkan bahawa selaras perkara 54 Perlembagaan Persekutuan selaku yang di-Pertua Dewan Rakyat telah mengemukakan suatu pemberitahuan bertarikh 25 Julai 2023 iaitu hari ini kepada Pengerusi Suruhanjaya Pilihan Raya SPR Malaysia yang berhormat Datuk Seri berkenaan dengan yang berhormat Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ayub, Ahli Parlimen Pulih Johor telah meninggal dunia pada hari Ahad 23 Julai 2023 dan oleh yang demikian selaras dengan perkara 54 Fasal 1 Perlembagaan Persekutuan, pihak SPR hendaklah mengisi kekosongan luar jangka kerusi Parlimen kawasan P161 Pulih Johor dalam tempoh 60 hari dari tarikh dipastikan oleh SPR Malaysia bahawa ada kekosongan. Dan di kesempatan ini bagi pihak Parlimen Malaysia yang di-Pertua Dewan Rakyat merakamkan ucapan takziah kepada seluruh ahli keluarga Allahyarham yang berhormat Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ayub dan mendoakan semoga roh Allahyarham dicucuri rahmat dan ditempatkan dalam kalangan orang-orang yang beriman serta beramal soleh di sisi Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Okey, baik, kita ke segmen Jiwa SME. Bukan sahaja lazat dan memuaskan, kek dan pencuci mulut juga mempunyai daya tarikan estetik. Hiasan menawan, warna menarik dan kreativiti dalam hidangan yang cantik kini menjadi trend untuk ia dikongsi di media sosial. Kakao, sebuah perniagaan yang memfokuskan penghasilan kek dan pencuci mulut, menyediakan pelbagai jenis perisa yang menggoda selera. Namun, terdapat cerita unik perjalanan perniagaan yang menjadikannya berjaya ketika ini. Inspirasi jenama kakao bermula daripada perkataan koko dalam bahasa Arab. Pada masa itu, semua hidangan pencuci mulut yang dihasilkan menggunakan coklat sebagai bahan utama. Minat dalam bidang bakery sejak kecil tidak menghalang bekas jurutera Wan Amelia Wan alias 32 tahun meluaskan minatnya itu.
Time pandemic is time semua orang dalam rumah kan, so tak boleh keluar, and then obviously orang tak ada buat majlis keramaian, so a lot of my desserts is macam party box. It's memang untuk sharing punya box untuk bawa pergi ke majlis. So dalam 2-3 bulan memang tak ada sale lah sebab tak ada orang nak beli box yang besar macam tu. So this one day ni I fikir macam, oh why don't I sell like individual boxes. So I came up with singles boxes, which is like a few desserts, 1-2 desserts dalam satu box, and then upload dalam Instagram.
Home bakers penuh masa sejak permulaan Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan PKP ini telah melakukan pelbagai cubaan sehingga muncul idea Crafty Puff yang mendapat sambutan luar biasa. Ia merupakan antara produk terlaris kakao dan menjadi bukti keberanian mencuba menu baru mampu menarik pelanggan.
I start dekat dalam WhatsApp dulu, WhatsApp my condominium punya community dulu. Tanya diorang apa anybody interested, ada jual mix box, great for tea time, macam tu, or like a mini celebration that you're doing kan. So daripada situlah I continue on even after PKP pun. Mix singles box tu memang ramai orang minta, memang laku.
Instagram menjadi platform utama yang digunakan untuk mempromosi dan memberi kemas kini mengenai menu terbaru. Aplikasi WhatsApp juga memberi peluang untuk pelanggan melihat katalog yang ditawarkan serta boleh terus membuat pesanan.
Daya tarikan yang I selalu dengar lah daripada customers, I cakap memang I ada customer yang setia since beginning of pandemic lagi. Dia memang order up to like 6-7 boxes sekali order. Dia memang cakap tak terlalu manis. Delivery sekarang ni fokus dekat Cyberjaya, tapi my desserts have been to Johor, Kuantan, Kelantan, Terengganu, all over lah. Dia orang memang sanggup datang pick up dekat sini untuk bawa balik kampung. And then dekat kampung pun memang dia orang cakap cepat habis.
Kakao juga menggunakan perkhidmatan penghantaran melalui Lalamove dan Grab serta kadang-kadang melibatkan diri dalam penghantaran sendiri agar dapat memastikan pesanan pelanggan tiba dengan selamat dan tepat pada waktunya. Dalam dunia perniagaan, kerjasama dan perkongsian serta pertukaran ilmu adalah kunci kejayaan. Hal ini juga berlaku dalam industri bakery di Malaysia.
Dalam community group, kita ada a group of 20 or so bakers across Malaysia. Ada yang dah ada kedai, ada yang dah ada staff. So macam people like me yang baru nak kembangkan bisnes. So kita orang akan share ideas lah, akan tanya diorang macam mana proses nak contohnya buat SOP, or macam mana nak hire staff.
Dia berhasrat untuk memperluaskan ruang kerja, meningkatkan kapasiti mesin dan mengambil pekerja tambahan untuk mengembangkan perniagaannya. Sikap, dedikasi komuniti yang membantu serta pemasaran melalui platform digital, Kakao terus memikat hati pelanggan sehingga ke hari ini. Okey, nampak sedap dessert tadi. Saya nak minta Nina belanja selepas ini. Okey, selepas ini anda akan bersama dengan Ibrahim Sani. Sekian sahaja dari saya untuk Niaga AWANI. Assalamualaikum, salam hormat.
What type of complaints can be lodged against PDRM under the IPCC framework?
So we should have judicial oversight, hearings in cameras and so on and so forth.
And I'm just wondering what support systems are there to assist former para-athletes.
Some choose their own way to further their life.
How have we fared in achieving our preschool education goals?
Actually, Malaysia has been doing a very good job on this.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda Awani Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro Awani.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Ibrahim Sani. We're looking at prices, not just any prices, but food prices in particular. More importantly, how inflation and real prices are going to be affected, particularly for people like you and me. In fact, very recently, I have just spent the same amount of basket of goods on my favorite supermarket, and it has increased from 500 ringgit to 600 ringgit, considering that the same basket of food that I bought was only costing me 300 ringgit just about 2 years ago. So there's a lot of real differential prices when it comes to food and the things that we buy every day at the supermarket. Here to explore this even further is none other than a good friend of the show, Datuk Wira, Dr. Amir Ali Maidin. He is the co-chair of Pemuda, or the Pasukan Petugas Khas Pemuda Cara Perniagaan, or Special Task Force to Facilitate Business. He's also the president of BRO, or the Bumiputra Retailers Organization. Dato' Amir, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. It's been quite a while for us to try and explore this, especially for a person like you and the organization that you lead, which is Maidin. We know that Malaysia's inflation rate has moderated to the lowest level this year. It does give a reprieve in terms of central bank policymakers to actually moderate the interest rate hikes. We've seen only one-time hike only this year. CPI rose 2.8% earlier in May. This is lower than the median estimate of 3% in a few surveys, including Bloomberg survey. But the core issue right now is on whether or not consumers are actually reflecting in terms of these economic data. We all know that while the official data says inflation has gone down or inflation rate has moderated, quite frankly, especially somebody like me, food prices is still going up, and I have to now be very picky in terms of what I put in my shopping cart. Could you give us the lay of land in terms of where the situation is when it comes to prices, especially food prices?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think basically first you must understand food prices when you eat out, or food prices when you go to a supermarket or the convenience store that you buy things. Right? Undoubtedly, food prices in restaurants have increased tremendously. Right? And they have their own reason for doing that. They say input cost is high, electricity tariffs have gone up, labor has gone up, rental is now back and going up because COVID-19 is over, nobody increased the rental, so these are many issues behind it. But I think the question is that, is my grocery shopping prices going up? Right. People have a lot of perception. Perception rules the world, unfortunately. People keep saying prices are going up, and that's exactly what you said. Are prices really going up? Let's look at that. So maybe then we have to go to data. So in MyDin, and I'm sure our statistics department monitor data, we monitor key things that people buy. 500 items. We take 500 items, which is generally 70% of a basket. Then you buy different types of diapers. Some you buy something else, but our customers are B40 and 40. We know what they buy, so we take about 80% of that basket. We know what people buy. Surprisingly, shockingly, data shows that we go back from October 2022, right, to December 2022. We take the 3 months there. Prices went up by 1.2%. Only 1.2%. Then from October to February 23, prices went up by 0.49%. Right?
That means January, February must have gone down a bit.
But now, prices are going up, March to July, prices have gone down by 1.46%. Shocking. Come on. I don't feel it. You don't feel it seriously sometimes because people don't really look at prices. You hear a lot in social media. That's the thing. Are you aware, for example, now, chicken had been price controlled at $9.40. In your mind, everybody says $9.40. You go there, you pick up a chicken, you go home. Chicken prices have gone down the last 3 days to $8.29 per kilo, from $9.40 to $8.29. And tomorrow, you'll be selling at $7.99. Massive drop. But why?
But that's the thing. My data is called the receipt, shopping receipt. And my data has shown that it has increased by 20%, from 500 to 600. So how do we reconcile?
Okay, see, it's like this. I don't know where you shop. Okay, you're a MyDin shopper, go to MyDin, because my data is MyDin data. Right? So we pick a basket. Very transparent. The whole basket is here. Everything. That 500 items are all here, which are your normal vegetables, your tomatoes, your ginger, your carrots, your long beans, your krisi, and your normal chicken. Then your fish, ikan patin, ikan bawal, siakap.
You name it lah.
The main items that anybody will buy. Then we go to rice, then we go to sugar, then we go to even sundries. 500 items, right? And those are the prices. And we are monitoring it. I've got from 2022 until July 23. Right? And that is, some prices have gone up massively. There's one item that gone up by 66%. Garlic. Suddenly just went up. Okay? Cucumber has jumped by 40-50% suddenly. But a lot of things have gone down. So we have to look at the average. I mean, how people pick things up, what they pick. But this is the reality. And fresh item, the last 3 months, have gone down by 4.87%. Grocery down by 1.56%. Grocery true, which is sundries and things like that, have actually gone up by 0.4%. We average it out, we get 1.46% down. So actually, fresh has been the driving force the last 3 months. Okay, and they say, why? I can't dispute your basket, right? I can't dispute, but this is my basket, and the figures are all there. But why are fresh items going down?
Is it because of self-sufficiency ratio? Is that it, SSR?
I think basically the demand. See, people plant tomatoes, timun, your cauliflowers, okay? Unexpected demand. If demand goes down, prices drop. And seriously, we have a demand problem. Now, last time we had a supply chain problem, we had a supply problem. Prices were going up. Supply was a mess, mess. Then we have disasters coming in, banjir lah, panas lah, this, okay? Somehow all that has stabilized, but demand has not.
So you're saying demand is rising so increasingly right now?
Right. So now,
but with the interest rate increasing,
correct.
Isn't that, all the economic textbooks says?
Right. Correct. So now people have less money to spend. Your end pocket, what you have, disposable income goes down, so your demand goes down.
Theoretically, actually.
And supply is there, prices go down.
Yeah.
It's theory, but it shows you in reality what happens. You see? So what happened? And of course, we got import inflation.
Okay.
Which is the basic topic. People say harga akan naik 20% because our US dollar rate has gone up and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Then we say, really? We have to go back to the data, right? Then we go back to data and say, in July, exactly 1 year ago, what was US to Ringgit? It was 4.584.
Not much difference actually, you think about it.
Right? You see? So it was July. Then in October, it went up to 4.748.
Yeah.
So there, it went up. So as it went up, all of us start increasing prices, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
It's an increase.
Yeah.
3-month lag. So prices goes up. Then in April, it went down to 4.63. In July again, this year, okay, not today's rate, but July, it went up to 4.68, 4.69. So we all said, oh my goodness, prices are going to go up because rates. But it was a short term. Now it's gone back to 4.54. We are back to almost July last year. So what happened is that prices were there. They started to pick up. That's why we have that 1%, 2% up. Right? Then it came down. It wanted to go up. And we all said, even I said, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. But then the ringgit kukuh balik. It went down again. Okay. So now looking at this, the probability of prices going up in August, which is just next month, right? In August, the so-called magic number of 20% is not going to be there. We are looking at it because we get 30 days notice of increase in prices.
Okay.
Right? So supplies have come back. Many are not increasing because the rates have come down again. So we expect about 1 to 1.2% general increase in prices. The minimum chocolate might go up, but the coffee might go down, the cereal, depending on demand and depending on the supply.
Okay. What about input costs like fertilizer that may have some impact on chicken feed, for instance, or agriculture?
Correct. So US dollar has moderated, so fertilizer prices will moderate. Okay. Demand is slow. Unfortunately, demand is slow. That's why chicken prices have gone down.
But what the Ukraine conflict, for instance, that has pushed up the fertilizer prices, is it going to stay
Correct.
up?
So now, you see, because the global economy is moving, right? So no one sitting here, seriously, can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Seriously. I mean, this Ukraine conflict, the Russia decided to stop the Black Sea export from there.
Yeah, with the grain transport.
Grain, just 2 days ago. And suddenly, people start speculating what's going to happen, right? So, temporarily again, we're going to have this issue again. How bad is the issue? It's going to be like this. We went through it before. The world has gone through this before. They learned, right? And this time, it might not be as bad as last time.
But still, there's a bet lah.
Correct. You see, what happens is that...
Calculative bet, but still
But you see, people have all kind of predictions, projections, right?
Yeah.
I think the world learns and changes. Like we all expect crude palm oil, my God, war, boom, up, but it stabilizes. Because you see, Russian oil blockage, shortage of oil, Russian oil comes via India and goes back to the Middle East. You see, it moves, right? I mean, businesses are businesses, right? I'm not saying that it doesn't affect it. Obviously affects business. It's not good for stability. We all want stability. But the issue is that we got to live with this. We got to live with this. And the main thing here is, to me, is that don't push the blame to the government unnecessarily. I'm not saying don't blame the government. If they are wrong, they are wrong. Right?
Okay, let's talk about subsidies then. Because sometimes I scratch my head at the kind of subsidies that is being given. Subsidies to sugar, for instance. Subsidy to cooking oil. You know, these are the conversations that we must have. Do you feel that these kind of subsidies must continue to be remaining in place, considering that the government, subsidy to petrol especially, for the longest of time, we have now had 4 or 5 now different governments. They're all talking about reduction of subsidy, and yet the subsidy bill goes up every year. How do you see this topic of subsidies now? Okay.
I, for one, have always said we should get out of this subsidy mentality.
Then inflation will just go out of control.
We will have to get out of it. We've got to remove those IV lines here and there. We have to do it. We definitely have to do it because it's costing the country 70 billion. Right? I mean, 80% of our money goes for subsidies, for salaries. We hardly have 15-20% left for infrastructure development, hospitals, whatever. We are not going to be able to be a developed nation if all the money just goes for the expenses, just like that. That is one. Okay. Number 2, the government has always been advocating, right? Subsidy bersasar.
Yeah.
Targeted subsidy.
Yeah.
Okay.
B40, for instance, or whatever lah. Then macam-macam mechanism.
But they seem to have not the willpower to do it. Okay. Every time they want to do something, another election comes in. Now we got state elections coming in.
Because so they can't decouple from the topic of election result versus subsidy removal.
Right. So this is this sheer political will that subsidies need to be removed. And obviously, what we need to do and how we need to do this. Obviously, we have to look at the macro picture, okay, and balance it up, right? So 70-80 billion subsidy, please remove it, okay? We have the subsidies hasar. We actually already know who are the B40s. We have the data because we're giving this MyKasih, we're giving this, all the government money is giving out through the LHDN system currently. So the government already knows. This is not something 3 or 5 years ago. We have to give vouchers. The politicians go around shaking hands and giving it. Now they already know who are the people, right? So all they have to do is, instead of giving this $100, which they just announced, and grateful to the government. You know why I'm grateful to the government? Because the government announced 100 ringgit for 6 months. The grateful should be the recipient. My goodness, I'm so grateful. My business jumped 50% the day they give the money.
They use the money for...
They use the money.
Bukan joli kan.
Because they showed how much they need the money. So I thank the government, not for them, I thank the government for the business, saying that money, on a Wednesday, business jumped by 50%. 50% 2 days ago. Because the money was given on Monday. Straight away, people spend the money. So that goes to show that the people that the money is going to, the $2 billion, is actually needed by the people. So government knows who they are. So don't give 100 ringgit. You can give them 500 ringgit. Why not? But remove the so-called toll subsidy, the tong minyak gas subsidy. We know how much is being diverted wherever it is. So we have to get rid of that because unfortunately of the 70 billion, we don't even know how much is really going to the real...
So you're giving an out to the government, basically, because people are talking about, not people, politicians are talking about there's no political will because the decoupling issue of polling results versus subsidy removal. But if you go with the big, if the government goes big on B40 targeted subsidy, which has been done in small stages of 100 ringgit, now push it up to 500 ringgit, there is a possibility of an out for the government and that political consideration can be negated. Is that what you're trying to say?
Correct. I think we have to do 2 things here, all right? We'll have to remove that, but whatever we do, we have to do it slowly. We cannot have a shock treatment, okay? We cannot have a shock treatment because the economy, the people, because it's not the B40s are getting the subsidies, the M40s are getting the subsidies, the T20s are getting subsidies. You can see the 220 don't depend on the subsidies, but the M40 are getting subsidies because the cooking oil, the flour, and whatever else is just going through, right? And just to correct it, sugar, there's no subsidy. Sugar, there's a price control.
Okay.
Price control, okay? But others, they have subsidy. So I think we have to do 2 things here. Number 1, we have to remove this. Number 2, we actually need to increase people's income. That's the end of the end game, right? We have to increase people's income. That means what they need to do? They need to increase salaries, which is a real blackout for everybody out there, all right? Because people say, all my expenses are going to go up. But you see, we have one of the lowest wages in the world. We are paying 1,500 minimum wage, right? Our economic minister has been talking about progressive wage model. The details will come out. They're having this stakeholders, and whatever. But I'm very sure it will come out. And we really got to move this. We might have to bulldoze this. The government might have to bulldoze this through the private sector. Because as usual, I mean, I employ 6,000 people, and you say, naik gaji, jangan.
Yeah, but MEF, Malaysian Employees Federation, is going gung-ho on going militant now. It's like, no way, no how. Like, X amount of businesses will go out of business and so on and so on.
They are the people, seriously, who is creating the issue. Because they are the one who wants low-wage model, because they are the one who want to do this, all right? These are the multinationals. All right. So what we need to do is we need to balance it.
They meaning MEF,
right? Because they are multinational, right? Their job is to what? To make money from a country, milk a country. If they can't milk it, they move to the next country, to Vietnam, to Thailand, or whatever. We will have to look what is best for our country. Okay. And the way to do this seriously is number one, a progressive wage model. The minimum wage has to go up progressively. Then you have the productivity element there, so you can pay people more. Numbers need to be sorted out. And it has to be done progressively. That means, don't tell me, I mean, the worst is the government loves to shock us lah. December 25th, they say, daripada January, gaji akan menaik daripada 1,500 ke 2,000. We get a heart attack, right? Tell us now, this is July. In January, please increase wages, minimum wage, by 100 ringgit. Then we adjust.
Normally they do this in the budget. There's a budget coming up very soon, 3 months, 2 months from now. Maybe do you expect something like that in the budget?
I think we should. We should say it loud and clear that we are going to do this 100 ringgit in January, another 100 ringgit in June, another 100 ringgit in December. So we all know where we're heading to. This is your the basic wage.
Wouldn't that increase your business cost overhead considerably, considering that you have 6,000 people, many of them on minimum wage? So 1,005 times, I don't know, 5,000 people, and then 1,006 times 5,000 people. It's going to hit your bottom line, no?
You know what? That's very subjective. I pay out extra $2 million a month. That money goes to 25 million people who are working out. Or they come and spend back in my din. My business goes up. I make more money. I pay them back. It's a cycle.
Nothing's stopping you from doing this now. Why don't you just increase you have the control within your company?
Correct. Within my company, I have a control, right? But I have to be competitive in the market. If I increase my wage from 1,500 to 2,000, my wage cost goes up, my total overhead goes up. I cannot compete with harga ayam, with my next competitor, because his wage is 1,500. That's why it has to be top-driven sometimes. It has to be top-driven, because then everybody's wages have to go up. Then I become competitive. See? It's not so easy, you know. I would love to give my people from 1,500 to 2,000. But my competitor is giving 1,500, right? So his wage cost is 6% of total revenue. Mine will become 9%. Then I will not be competitive. I'll start losing millions of dollars very fast. So it's not as simple as it looks, but I think it has to be everywhere. The minimum wage everywhere. Put in the progressive model, the productivity side of it, to be fair. Take out. You see, the government do something sometimes. They're going to put that 4,000 ringgit overtime or that. That thing tak payah lah. You know why? Because those people are already at 4,000. You know, you don't have to give them OT. You know, the real people who need the money is the 1,500, the 2,000, the 2,500. But they're going to put it. They're going to give paternity leave. You know, all these are additional costs. We don't need that. We don't need that. What we need is wage. Don't mess up with so many other, because all the other things is nice to have.
But the core issue is still the wage.
The core is the wage. But when from the employee perspective, you say, give them extra 2 days there. I would like to declare a public holiday today, because whatever reason, tomorrow somebody wins another state election, they have another public holiday coming, you know, that costs money. The last public holiday cost the industry $1.5 billion that day of productivity. This is where money just goes out. we should be very strict with public holidays. Why?
I think I saw somewhere Malaysia has one of the most
correct
public holiday.
Correct. So this is what we have to get it right. This is popular things, you know. I mean, the government, if it's a strong government, should need to get out of this popularity kind of thing. You see, when the government is
I don't know. I mean, like on behalf of all the politicians in this world, you have to be popular.
Correct. But if you want to do the right thing, as a parent, do you have to be popular with your children? No. Right?
I don't have elections with my kids every 4 years.
Correct. They don't have a choice, right?
They don't have a choice.
Right. But here what you have is
you're asking the politicians to do the right thing. Dato, it's not easy.
I agree. What I say is like
unless the popularity wants the politician to do the right thing, then they do the right thing. Undi 18, for instance.
You know,
that's
the same thing. As a parent, you are strict with your children. The children only realize it when they grow up.
Yeah.
My parents did the right thing and I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think we've got to do this. Politicians have to make decisions for the country, not for themselves. Yes, everybody wants to be popular. I would love to have my children say, thank you, daddy, thank you, mommy, whatever. But unfortunately, we have to use the cane when we need to, right? So the politicians are there. They must be there for the better of the country, not for their own popularity. Unfortunately, the real world differs. But this is what we need to do. Be unpopular for 3 years, you got 2 more years for election, then you become popular lah.
If the consumers go to the supermarket and they see the price increasing, even though your data says no, my data says yes, how do you see this discrepancy? I'm trying to circle back to the whole purpose of the whole genesis of this conversation. Where do we start in terms of managing that perception of real prices going down versus the perception of prices going up?
I think we have to look at the reality. I am not saying prices are going down. I'm not saying prices are not going up. I mean, let me correct you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the last 3 months, data shows we have not gone up the way people are talking.
The way I'm talking.
The way you are talking about it. So it's all perception. I mean, I was on one radio show and somebody mentioned, one fellow came online and said, you know what, I went to a store 200 and now I'm paying exactly the same item 250. I can't dispute what he's saying, all right? But Mydin data is there because we take 500 items, okay? In your basket could be some items that are really not to us asas in terms of the popular one. You could be buying some premium diapers, you know, that guy suddenly increase the price by 20-30%, right? And he will have good reason to do it, and they could have brought your basket up, you see. But when you look at the basic item, it's not happening. So I think it's important for us to get the perception right. I have always been honest. Beras tak ada. I have been screaming out there, there's no beras. When there was no egg, I've been screaming out there to the government, there's not enough eggs, you know. When the price of chicken go down, it's only fair I also scream the price of chicken is going
down. Let's talk about supply per se. Do you feel that Malaysian entrepreneurs need to focus on agro-business right now?
Unfortunately not. People are not doing it.
And why? Why do you think that's not? I'm sure you would love to buy from local suppliers about anything.
Right. You know, unfortunately, what we need to do here, there's certain things we are not going to be competitive in. Let's accept the fact. Let's accept the fact. Some things you can do and some things you can't do. We just have to look at the food security. What is, in case of war, something happens, we can't be dependent. Look at the basic,
SSR lah.
The basic beras lah, beras, gula, tepung, something like that. Okay, and look at some countries model, like India, for example, massive wheat importer many years ago, now a massive wheat exporter, but my God, they got $1.5 billion to feed, 1.5 billion people to feed. How did they do it? So there's some things that we can do. Do we have the right soil for it? And you know what? We cannot be saying peladang-peladang kecil, that it doesn't work. It's an industry. You really got to go big. You got to really have the Sime Darbis or whoever the big GLCs are. Go for the big plantation and figure out how to manage the small holdings in terms of, you got to manage this. I'm not saying they're not important to the country. I'm not trying to take their livelihood, you know, but for the sake of the country, Okay, you cannot have fishermen going in the small sampan and getting when the Koreans and the Taiwanese and the Vietnamese are coming with massive, and they are at our
doorstep,
right, and taking the fish and selling back to us. Let's look at what we can do and what we cannot do. If we can do only timun, let's focus on the timun, and you got to buy the cauliflower, you got to buy the broccoli, then you buy. You know, cabbage is so expensive from Cameron.
You fall back to the whole bartering system. I mean, of 10,000 years ago, we have this. It's okay.
Fine.
Then we use this for that.
I mean, cabbage is cheaper from China. You buy from China. Your cabbage is expensive. You are not going to be cheap. You cannot going to be competitive. So why you make us suffer by having expensive cabbage? You let us import. Our onions are imported. Our potatoes, you know, everything we import. At the moment, almost everything. Food is import. Okay, so we should export what we are good at and try to balance it. And just have a minimal food security where you say, you know, this is my red line. Kalau tak ada beras,
habis. Game over.
So figure out how to do the beras part.
Yeah,
figure that out. Which actually we can do if we put enough money in MADA and get the agriculture system sorted out.
All right. Dato', final comment. Dato', very short one.
I think it's very important here that for food, let's be very clear. In any world, wherever it is, prices go up. And prices will go up. Important is how high they go. That's one. Number two, we really have to get to the wage model. So people's salary, income goes up with price increases. Okay? People say, alah gaji naik, barang naik harga. It's okay. Let's earn the 3,000 and be able to buy the same basket at 3,000. At least comparatively with other countries.
I grew up in Sydney. Minimum wage is $25 per hour. Prices are not like super inflationary.
So that is the way to do it. And we've got to push this. We've got to push to the industry. And you know, myself from the Pemuda side, we're also trying very hard to convince the private sector that we have to move this way.
All right. That was Datuk Wira Dr. Amir Alimaidin, the chairman of the Special Task Force to Facilitate Business, or Pemuda. If you want to learn more, just head on to astroawani.com and find out more information there. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Catch you in the next one.